Welcome to Dindi Live, presented by Murrindindi Shire Council. Simulcast on UGFM in your local area. Due to Stage 3 restrictions being implemented across the Murrindindi Shire, Dindi Live has had to make some adjustments to the way we do things. We'll continue to bring you entertainment from a range of musicians and artists who are recording from home at this time. Dindi Live would like to introduce Alverie.
Hi everyone, welcome to Dindi Live. My name is Alverie, or some of you may already know me as Sabrina, and I'm from Strath Creek. I put together some of my own original music for you to watch and listen to. A little bit of music goes a long way in these unusual and trying times. So I hope that everyone is keeping well and that you enjoy watching and listening. I'm always running late. Hate it when I have to wait. I'm first to criticize others when they drive, and I've got far from golden stars from my driving history. Well, I pay a fortune for my phone, but won't spend any money on my clothes. I've never got enough room for all my stuff, and I'm forever gathering up things to throw away. La-da-dee, la-da-da. I don't do well with confrontation, but I like a little gossip on the side. And I don't like to argue, but I will do if I think I know I'm right. The realization kills me, 'cause I've been thinking maybe I'm not that nice. I'm always late to pay my rent. Had a potty mouth since I was 10. I am politically incorrect, you see, 'cause I'm not up to date with all the things that we can't say. I'm not your girlfriend's cup of tea. I'm not sure if it's her or if it's me. I don't know what I've done. I'm a bit confused because I've done nothing but be plain old kind and bubbly. La-da-dee, la-da-da. And I don't mean to be rude, it's just the sound of people chewing drives me wild. And then they try to have a conversation while they eat. It makes me crazy. Close your mouth. The realization kills me, 'cause I've been thinking lately maybe I'm not that nice. So enticing at the start, captivating my whole heart. this what love is? Read the script and play the part. Facilitates in your facade. Is this what love is? And I can't even hate you for it. You don't even know you're toxic. Everyone I'd ever loved turned their back on me for what? Is this what love is? And I can't even hate you for it. You don't even know you're toxic. I can't even hate you for it. You don't even know you're toxic. I had nothing left to give, but still not enough for you, is it? Is this what love is? Is this what love And I can't even hate you for it. You don't even know you're toxic. I can't even hate you for it. You don't even know you're toxic.
Lie to me, tell me there's nowhere you would rather be than right here intertwined with me. And if you feel so inclined, enlighten me. What is it about enticing me? My knees are weak. Do you take pleasure at the sight? Honey, won't you free me from eternal unrequited love? Lucky ones forever know the thrill, sensation of a single touch you feel, and I'm still dreaming of. Love me once, then never let me forget that you did. It seems that I a mere product of my own design, lost in a construct of my deepest desires, and forfeiting my bed. Oh honey, won't you free me from eternal unrequited love? Lucky ones forever know the thrill, sensation of a single touch you feel, and I'm still dreaming of. Love me once, then never let me forget that you did. Won't you free me from eternal unrequited love? Lucky ones forever know the thrill, sensation of a single touch you feel, and I'm still dreaming of. Love me once, then never let me forget that you did. I sat down one day and wrote a list of all the things I want to change. Like how I should conduct myself, and it seemed so important on the day. But it really don't seem so important now. I never thought I'd live to see the world so broken, everyone's misplaced. I'm grateful for my dad for keeping mom and I from going insane. And my mom for giving me someone to make coffee in the morning for. But I just want to hug my sister, tell her that I love her, but I can't. always been my favorite part of winter in the past. But it don't feel right to love it this time. And I'm beating myself up for all the times I didn't visit my nan. And when this is all over, I swear I will go back to that list I wrote and tear it up and throw it away. 'Cause I'm still bad at checking in with my brother. Well, I hope he's okay. And I just want to hug my sister, tell her that I love her, but I can't. And I'm beating myself up for all the times I didn't visit my nan. And when this is all over, I swear I will.
Thanks for listening and stay safe.
Up next, we talk to Pat Weeks about her work.
Hello everyone, welcome to Dindi Live. I'm coming to you from my studio this time on the Aquin Cutting, and I'd like to give you a little bit of information about how I started with my art career. I first got interested as a schoolgirl. Sometimes you can be very fortunate with your teachers. I think they're very important sometimes with your later life. I had in primary school in very early years, I had a wonderful teacher that taught us perspective. At the time, I didn't realise how important it would be, but she had us drawing boxes, cubes, a lot of roadsides that disappeared into the distance. And something that stayed with me, we had to paint with our Oswald pastels in those days. We had to paint mountains with one half blue and the other half mauve, that beautiful mauve that's in the Oswald box. And I never really understood why until the first time I came with Alan, my now husband, to Alexandra. We drove through Coldstream and the sun was setting on the ranges in the distance, and I immediately realised that's what she was talking about, when the mauve is on those mountains and the darker blue is in the shadow. So that was something that I found very interesting. Later on, I studied at RMIT in the evening because I worked in advertising for Edmonds. Don't know if Edmonds is still going. They were opposite Myer in Burke Street, and we had our art department in Edmonds, and we used to do silkscreen printing. In those days, a lot of people nowadays they think silkscreening is something new, but this is way back in the 50s that we were doing silkscreening, and we did all of the advertising art that went to their stores all over Australia, and that was my foundation in silkscreening. In the meantime, once I met Alan, who was a photographer, taking many shots. I think half of the district will have wedding and child photographs and news photographs that Alan's taken over the years. I thought it might be a good idea to learn how to colour photographs because colour wasn't in those days. And I did a night course at RMIT learning to colour sepia photographs. And that turned out to be something that I continued on once we were married and living in Alexandra for quite a few years until colour photography came along.
How did you start painting wildflowers?
I was taking one of the children down to stay with a grandmother over the school week. She was going to school in Melbourne, and I was able to do a watercolour course that my eldest daughter gave me for a birthday present with a Dutch artist called, I can't think of her first name, but it was Kelkoen was her second name. And she taught me the basis of watercolour. A lot of people are very frightened of watercolour, but I found it wonderful once I'd learned some of the basics. And it wasn't till when we retired, we started travelling to Alice Springs over the winter months. And the year 2000, we camped out on the Fink River, and it was a most amazing year. I haven't seen a year like it since. The wildflowers were just, I think it'd been a year like we've had here with the rain. The wildflowers just covered the countryside everywhere. And I took a couple of paintings into the local gallery, Leaping Lizards in Alice Springs. This was the year 2000. And the gallery owner said, "Oh, paint more, paint more. Everybody does the scenery, but nobody's doing the wildflowers." So we went back to our campsite, and I spent 2 weeks just painting every wildflower that I could see. And that was where the idea for my poster, which I've done, it's got 47 of the wildflowers, but I couldn't finish that idea that year because I do like to have the actual flower to paint from. So we went back again the next year, and fortunately there was still a lot of the flowers flowering that I could finish the series. So that's how my poster came about, and that's gone all over the world with that collection. And a couple of years later, we really retired from dairy farming and photography, and we thought we had, because the photography part of it is continuing. And we spent 12 years in the centre. We just loved it so much that we kept going back, and we made lovely friends. And I joined the Plant Society and the Field Nats in Alice Springs, and because they were very knowledgeable and able to know where to go, we went out into many desert trips. The husband of one of the ladies had worked at Woomera, and he was very interested in searching for rocket parts as the trajectory went across the desert towards the Cape, and he followed up the trajectory and was very keen to find remnants. So on those trips, which we did each year, the men went looking for rocket parts, and which they found quite a few interesting pieces. And I learnt so much from the women, because they'd lived in that area for so long. And even now, I can't remember the names, botanical names. I have trouble with the botanical names, but that's how the botanical collection started, and that continued for the whole 12 years.
When was your first recognition for your work?
My first recognition came when I was 15. I used to be an avid listener of Radio 3DB from Melbourne in those days, where I grew up. And they had a competition. It was during the Queen and the Duke's visit to Australia in 1954. And they had a competition to do a painting or design of the royal itinerary. And I thought, okay, I'll have a go at this. And I actually won the girls section. There was a boys section, the girls section. Mine went to Princess Anne. And I was very excited at the time. I was interviewed on 3DB, and the artwork had to go to England on what was the ship at the time was the Gothic, and it had to be X-rayed. And for a young 15-year-old, that was very exciting, especially when I got a letter back from the Queen's Lady-in-Waiting thanking me.
Can you tell us more about your work in Alice Springs?
Well, interestingly, when somebody moves to Alice Springs, which is rather a mixture of people from all over, and when they come, maybe for 2 years, a bit like us, we went for 2, we stayed for 12. People, they're grabbed if they've got any sort of talent whatsoever. And at the time, there was nobody teaching watercolour or botanical art. And I was approached by the Olive Pink Botanical Gardens people to give, would I give lessons? And I thought, well, I've not been a teacher. I really don't know. But I was quite surprised once I started with these groups every Saturday morning. What I did know, when people know nothing, you realise, well, maybe I do know a little bit more than they do. And those groups went on for a few years, and then we also did workshops at the desert park. That was very enjoyable too.
How did you end up working in the Murrindindi Shire?
Later on, once the children were all off my hands and I had a bit more time to paint, but I didn't have the space. So we had a carport that we had converted to a studio, and then I started selling my work from the studio. We called it the Coach Stop Gallery because there is an old road that crosses the Akron Cutting, which was originally Alan's mother can remember the coaches on the old road that used to further down than the road is now. I think the road now is about the third road. But yes, for quite a few years I have been using that as my gallery, which I still do.
Can you show us some of your work?
This is part of a collection that I've done in my time in Alice Springs. These particular paintings, some take days to do. The one I did today is very quick, so but normally these are a representation of a plant. A true botanical painting might take up to 3 months if you're really doing very fine work. But I try to get a representation of the flower and looking rather more of an artistic version. This is one that, this is an Aeromophila. An Aeromophila is there's a large group of Aeromophilas that grow in Central Australia. They probably look like they're a dead stick. As soon as the rain comes, they flower. This one we found out near the Fink River one year, and I've turned that into a fabric design. Also do some fauna. These are the bilbies. Turned those into a card. It's another one of bilbies. This is another fabric design. Might get a bit of reflection there. This is a blue wren design that everybody loves blue wrens, I find. Can't do enough paintings of blue wrens. And of course the dirt pea, probably one of my best-selling cards in the centre is the desert pea. The desert rose, of course, is you might get some reflection there, unfortunately. The desert rose is one of the. It is the emblem of the territory. This particular fabric is designed with the bean tree in mind. The seeds are used by the local Indigenous people to make necklaces. They're quite colourful. Of course, you know the emus that roam through the centre. This particular cushion here, it's a bit of a laugh. The words underneath say, "How about you mind the children? How about you mind the kids today?" Fathers are known for looking after the young chicks. Probably needed a rest. This is Eucalyptus pachyphylla, which is a very large flower, which in the centre there's not a very large, well, there's only 2 or 3 that have the really exotic looking flowers, more in the west, Western Australia, but I tend to favour this one because it's a little bit more interesting to paint. And I've done lots of versions of the same fabric, the same design. These are a little bit paler. These are more subdued colours. This particular one here is the wildflowers grown around here in the Goulburn and Akron Valley. Little early Nancy's and bulbine lilies, some owls. This is a goodenia. It's a dear little flower. I photographed this way out in the wilds of the Northern Territory. Just that we happened to stop and I saw this little goodenia, not much bigger than the actual flower there, growing in the middle of the road. So I took some photos. I usually like to have a sample to photograph, so I didn't dare pick it. I just painted from a photograph there. But I always really like to have a real life sample. Back on eucalyptus. It's a parakelia, version of a parakelia, it was actually bush tucker for a lot of the early settlers. The green leaves are edible. These are mainly the blues. Some more blue wrens.
How did you start to design fabric?
Then I did join a group of ladies who were quilting, and we used to meet on a Thursday night and have our evening chats, and they said, look, there's nothing really available in fabrics that have got the Australian designs on them that we can use. So that was how I started to get into fabrics, and it's grown from there. I now do a lot of fabric designing using the works that I have a basis with my botanical collection. So it's an ongoing thing. My studio here at Alexandra, I've got many different designs of all sorts. Every time there's been a workshop going over the years, I've taken the opportunity to have a workshop with the different artists. So I don't stick to one design. I tend to go off in a tangent sometimes and do pastel, watercolour. And when I was in the Central Australia, I found acrylics, and because everybody does big paintings in Alice Springs and in that area. And so I tended to, as a light relief from the fine, intense work of botanical art, I would tend to do some paintings with acrylic, and I found that enjoyable. And I still sell work at Leaping Lizards Gallery. In fact, I've got work to have done to send up this week. I've sold so many works that have gone all over the world. So I'm continuing with doing what I can in that field and enjoying my studio when I can open it again, which I hope you'll all visit, hopefully in the summertime when if you see my sign out on the road, you'll know that we're open for business. Thank you.
Thanks to Alverie and Pat Weeks. And thanks to you for listening and supporting local. Would you or your organisation like to be featured on our program? To register your interest, head over to murrindindi.vic.gov.au/Dindi Live. Dindi Live, bringing the arts to you.
In Murrindindi Shire, it's business as unusual, and right now our local businesses need you. Every dollar you spend locally helps business owners support their family, other businesses and you. Shop local, shop Dindi. Visit dindidirectory.com.au.